Did you know that your school can miss AYP because of a student that never attended your school? Good afternoon. My name is Evelyn Bragg, and I am your AYP support specialist. We're here today to discuss the elements that compose AYP. The components can be complicated, but I'm hopeful that you'll walk away today with a better understanding of why your school will or will not make AYP. For those of you new to the process, adequate yearly progress, more commonly known as AYP, is based on the performance of your students on the statewide assessments, and how we are measured to comply with the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. This afternoon, I would like to discuss the data sources that drive AYP, the steps in determining AYP, and an overview of the AYP process. So let's just jump right in and talk about the data sources. The data sources that drive AYP come from the annual data collections of student information, which include demographic and enrollment information. This is coming from your FTE and your student record information. As I mentioned when we first started, that it's possible, because of inaccuracies in your data, that you could have a student who could cause you to miss AYP, and that student never attended your school. So it's critically important that the information that we're recording in data collections is absolutely accurate. The second data source is coming from our student assessments. Our student assessments are put into the assessment processing application, and combined with the student data information drives your AYP reports. The steps in determining AYP that come from your data source include just three. Test participation, which requires that 95% of all students from your school participate in the student test assessments. The academic performance, which is based off of four measures. You have four opportunities to make the academic performance, which includes the annual measurable objectives, the AMO, which is your absolute bar, confidence interval, the multi-year average, and of course safe harbor. The assessments that academic performance are based on are CRCT for elementary and middle schools, and the Georgia High School graduation test for all high schools. And finally, the third step in determining AYP is second indicator. There is a menu of indicators for the elementary and middle schools, and graduation rate is always the second indicator for high schools. So let's look at a little bit more detail into the AYP report overview. The first element in this overview is determining whether our students qualify to be categorized in our AYP report determinations. Our students AYP is based off of our students as a whole and a series of subgroups. Our subgroups are broken down by ethnicity, economically disadvantaged students, and students with disabilities. There is a minimum size for our groups to qualify them as a subgroup. To meet the minimum size, a group must contain 40 students, or 10% up to 75, whichever is greater. After our group size determination, then we'll look at those three steps that determine AYP. The first one is, does our school as a whole meet the 95% participation rate? Then we'll look at the subgroups. Do each subgroup meet that same 95% participation rate? If your school as a whole or any subgroup does not meet the 95% participation rate, then we fail to make AYP. If they do, then we move on to the next step, which is the academic performance. Again, we're looking at our school as a whole and each subgroup. So the first element in academic performance is the annual measurable objective, which is our absolute bar. And our absolute bars are for CRCT now. So 66.7% of all students in all AYP grade levels in each subgroup must be in the meets and exceeds category. For CRCT reading language arts, that percentage is 73.3%. Georgia High School graduation test in math is 74.9%. And Georgia High School graduation test in English language arts is 87.7%. If our students as a whole or any subgroup does not meet that absolute bar, we do have 3 other opportunities to make our academic performance. Failing the absolute bar, we'll go to a second look. The first being the confidence interval, which is a calculated Z-score. If our students as a whole or any subgroup does not meet the confidence interval, then we'll go to a multi-year average. Failing the multi-year average, then we'll move on to Safe Harbor, which will actually add percentage points to an overall score. Again, all students in all AYP grade levels, as well as every individual subgroup, must meet one of the academic performance measures. If they fail to do so, our school fails AYP. If all students in every subgroup meets the academic performance, then we'll move on to the second indicator. As I stated, the second indicator for elementary and middle schools is based off of a criteria that your school has chosen for a minimum of 3 years. The majority of schools in Georgia have chosen attendance as their second indicator. We have to have 15% or less of our students absent no more than 15 days, or we must show progress over the preceding year. For high school, it is always graduation rate. This year, 60% of our seniors must graduate for us to meet the second indicator requirement, or we must show progress from the prior year. So in our second indicator, again, we're looking at all students and each subgroup. If all students or any individual subgroup does not make the second indicator, then we fail AYP. If all students and all subgroups make our second indicator, then we will make AYP. So just a quick recap. We need to ensure the accuracy of our data sources in order for the information that is fed into the AYP reporting system to provide accurate results. There are 3 steps in determining AYP: test participation, academic performance, and second indicator. And then finally, we need to review our report overviews to ensure that all students are meeting the criteria and all subgroups are meeting the criteria of AYP. Should you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at the information on the screen. And I thank you for your time.
Did you